Hello, everybody. Um, so, today I'm going to talk about how people try to get over on the person running the group when they are in counseling in Zoom groups. So, it's been over a month now that Colorado has been under a stay at home order, and so tomorrow will be the start of the safer at home phase, and I'm really hoping that those who've been barking about reopening the country, they don't take that as carte blanche to do whatever it was that they were doing before, because there are still restrictions in place for public safety, such as no meetings of more than 10 people, and even if you do, you need to try to socially distance yourself from people as much as possible, which for counseling agencies can be a very big problem if they're doing group therapy. And even if they're having people coming in and out of a building for different appointments throughout the day, it can be something of a task. So many agencies, like those that I work for, they've gone to telehealth. So there were things that I could right away foresee would have been issues, but there are things that you just learn along the way, and one of them is that apparently a lot of clientele probably thought at the beginning of this stay-at-home order phase of things, they were thinking, wow, if we do our groups via telehealth, then we can multitask. Like I could do this and do that at the same time. And it's not appropriate. Not at all. And some of the things that people have tried to do in my groups are wide-ranging. Like cooking, not so bad, but, when it's just taking something out of the oven, taking a moment to do that and then getting back to the group, that's fine. But when it's really involved and you can't really pay attention to what other people are saying, not good. Now, granted, they're muted, but, even though they're not disrupting anything that somebody else is saying, it's very evident that they cannot really hear what they're saying. But also, people might, try to get house chores done. Folding laundry, I don't think is that bad of a thing for people to do, because you can still pay attention to what's being said. It's a pretty mindless task. But doing your taxes, or say, being at your work office and you can plainly see that paperwork is passing by their desk and they're like reading stuff, that's not appropriate, because you're splitting your attention among different things. There are some things that I think that are they're okay, like doodling, coloring in a coloring book for anxiety, knitting. Those are all around the level of a fidget spinner, right? But the worst is when I catch people playing video games or watching TV while they're supposed to be in a Zoom group participating, right? And these are the ways that I've caught people, right? First of all, this white background behind me, the wall, that's one of the ways that I would catch people, because when there's flashing lights in the room from, say, a TV screen changing, like if I were to just click through some of the tabs that are on my screen right now, most of them are white, right? But for a TV, you might see different brightness going on. See that right there? So when you see those flashes, you have to understand, like, when I'm looking at a group of people on my computer, It's set up kind of like Hollywood Squares or the intro to the Brady Bunch. I have everyone up, and if there's one person flashing, then they're drawing attention to themselves in that way. And when there's something flashing on the wall like that, it's just very evident to me that there's a screen on and they're not paying attention, right? So the next thing I'm going to look for is, where are their eyes, right? So if they're on a phone and in the group, and their cell phone is set up to look at them, but their eyes are over here, then I know that they're looking at something else the whole time, right? And if I see, this is a big one. So if I see shoulders like this, I can figure that at the end of those shoulders, there's probably a controller where someone's doing this, right? So the posture of someone, being that they might be holding a controller, is something that I'm also looking for. And I've caught that. I've actually caught people's controller for just a second, like, come into view a couple times, and PlayStation 4 controllers, they have that glowing front to them. You can tell them right away. So that gives it away. Also, if somebody wears glasses inside, you'll see a glare of the screen that they're looking at, and you can tell that there's a screen in front of them, and it could be sunglasses, it could be regular glasses. Also, if I were to call on someone and it takes them an extra second because they're doing something with their hand, they might be pausing something, or pausing their show, pausing their game, and then they reach over to unmute, and then what's the first thing that they want to say? Could you repeat that question, please? Because they weren't listening. And that's why it's not appropriate. You can't play video games and do your mandated therapy at the same time. It's not appropriate at all, right? Knit me a sweater, and I'm okay with that, because I can see that you can still respond to people because you've been listening to people in the group, but playing video games is not appropriate. Now, I will say I've come across cases where I don't know whether or not they are, and it's hard to want to call someone out. And I will say that the biggest iffy factor here is when somebody is not showing themselves fully on screen like this, to where I can see their arms and their shoulders and their face, and instead they're like this close, right? And I can't see if their shoulders are actually in that position where they could be holding a controller, if they're like taking up this much of the screen. I think there are some people who might have a device where they bend it out and they have their phone held in the device, right? And then they set it up to be so close to their face that you can't see things like the flashing background or the flashing shirt reflecting the TV, and you can't see anything else that's going on in the room, because you're seeing a big close-up of their face. And so for those cases, I'm still kind of suspicious of them, because if I can't see those other cues, I gotta wonder why you got your phone so close up to your face. Especially if someone has it set up to where they're on a couch in a position where, like, if your hand was holding up your phone like that the whole time, you'd get tired, right? Or if they're in a bed and you can see like a pillow and they're like resting comfortably, you figure you could probably play a video game like this, right? Also, people playing games on their phone while they're connected with their computer or a different thing like a tablet or a different phone. I'll sometimes see their phone pop up like this, and I'll see their eyes dipping down to what they're doing. And some people have actually figured out how to minimize zoom in a way where it still shows the person who's loudest in the group, and they can pretty much keep participating to the point where it's hard for me to tell. But what I'll see is their finger keeps doing this thing, right? And it could be that they're swiping left. It's not. They're not on Tinder. There's different windows where you can see certain clients like 4 at a time go by on a cell phone. Instead of when you're on a computer, you can see everybody, right? So maybe they're looking for a certain client. Maybe they want to lock on to that person to see them during that discussion. That's possible. But also, what's possible is they're flipping little Angry Birds, and they got the group therapy minimized, and they're crushing all the candy with the Candy Crushes while they're trying to do group therapy, and that's not appropriate. That's taking your brain cells away from what you should be doing, the work of therapy, healing yourself. Okay? So, yeah, there is a difference between what I'll allow in person versus in group therapy. Somebody could probably get away with eating a little bit more food, or if they're muted, they can slurp their drink. And, I wouldn't know anyway. You can eat a loud bag of chips, and if you're muted and you don't take the bag of chips and make noises with it while other people are talking, you can still pay attention and eat a bag of chips. So there are things that I would allow, in telehealth that I wouldn't allow in in-person therapy in groups. But it hasn't shifted so much that I will allow video game playing. That's just not right. When you do it, it's disrespectful to everybody else in the group because they're bearing their soul and you're not paying attention. And then when I call on you, you want to be heard, right? Or maybe you don't. Maybe you don't even care. But, everybody else is paying attention to what the video game player says. Well, it's their turn to talk. But then they don't want to give people that same respect, And then, of course, it's disrespectful to me, the person running the group. It's disrespectful to the whole idea of the reason why they're there in the first place, and if they're mandated and they wouldn't have wanted to be there anyway, you just have to recognize that someone made that decision that, maybe you had a DUI and you need to go to this many therapy sessions because we have decided as a society that everyone who gets one of those needs to, at a minimum, do some therapy, and if that's you, bite the bullet and go 2 hours of your life without having a little bit of extra stimulus. I understand that cell phones and the internet and video games have made it so that people never really have to be bored anymore. And for some people, it's now painful to be bored. And if you're finding therapy boring, I'm sorry. Some people think I'm a great conversationalist. Others, yeah. But, yeah. You're there to do the therapy. Just do it. You don't have to play video games and disrespect everybody else in the group. This pandemic has brought about a whole bunch of people who they're just trying to, make the best of the situation, but sometimes they're going a little bit overboard in how they're adapting to things, and some people are actually taking advantage of the situation, and it's not helping. Talk to you guys later.